So good evening friends. So let's today analyze this session in this session we will be analyzing all the all the chapters, all the portions of botany, and we will see how the trend is there year after year, and we will try to find out a very common trend, and we will try to figure out which chapter is more important, which chapter to focus on, and even if let's say we find out the chapters which we should focus, then what exactly are the portion in which we should pay more attention. So first let's analyze year after year the trend of the paper. So overall in botany these are broadly these 15 chapters which I have listed it here, and these are the approximate question which is asked from these topics. So clearly the important chapter means number of question, if it is asked is more, then it is important. If it is less, then comparatively it is not that important, although seeing the trend of NEET, now no chapter you cannot say it as important, which is not important, because now seeing the trend 720 out of 720, we have to focus on all the chapters. Even if one question is coming from the chapter, that chapter is important. So let's analyze the trend. So clearly if we see the average of all the questions, then we can clearly see that there is a clear trend that if you can see, so I will tick mark all those important chapters so you can clearly see molecular basis of inheritance, principle of inheritance and variation, biotechnology and its application. These are clearly high scoring chapters, plus this chapter which is the sexual reproduction in flowering plants. So if we see, then these chapters together will be containing more than 20 questions. So these are very important questions. Then if we go to, so these are mostly of 12th portion. Now if we go in the 11th portion, then they are kind of uniformly distributed. But if we see now in the recent trend, if you see, the question from morphology is very high. See the trend how it changed. Morphology initially less questions were there, but from last 3 years you can see the question number of question asked in botany has increased, right? So recent trend says that the number of questions, so morphology become very important chapter, right? So in morphology again student usually get a little confused. Don't fear from families. There are very limited number of families we have to study, and also seeing the trend, not very complex and detailed question from family will be asked. So family just basics of it. Most of the question will be from the main morphology part, that is root, stem, leaf, etc. So focus on that. Read NCERT, exactly question will be from NCERT, so read the portions of NCERT. Now if we further see, if we combine these two chapters, cell and cell cycle, then again we can see that the question from cell and cell cycle is also coming in recent trends. Although in 2023 there were less question, but you can see overall the trend is still very high. So cell and cell cycle and cell division is also very important chapter, and the cell unit of life also on a regular basis high number of question is asked. Now if we go further, so if we combine the physiology part, the plant physiology part, so here in photosynthesis there are uniformly 2-3 question asked every year. Similarly in respiration if we see, again 1 question is asked every year. Plant growth and development, again here it is becoming very important. Now since the secondary growth is deleted from the syllabus, from the anatomy part, and some of the portion of that is given in the plant growth and development, so we may expect that just like photosynthesis, respiration, now this chapter plant growth and development will also be very important. So these 3 chapters needed to be covered in a very NCERT concentrated way, reading NCERT and getting every point from NCERT covered. That will help you to command in these chapters. Now coming to these chapters which are again very high scoring. So now one by one, if I say that, let's say sexual reproduction in flowering plants. So how you will cover this chapter? So in this chapter, very simple is that go through NCERT, right? Every diagram you just go through it, and then in the end, one part which is the pollination, agents of pollination, what are the factors which help in cross pollination, what are the factors which help in self pollination. These are the portion usually the student get a little confused or stuck. So these parts usually student can easily do the reproduction part, the formation of pollen grain, formation of embryo sac, their fertilization, etc. They somehow they can answer that, but somewhere the student get this portion wrong, where pollination and then cross pollination, self. So there you need to read from NCERT again and again. Then you will slowly get a command over it. So if you cover it, and then the diagram of NCERT is again very important. So go through the diagram, each diagram in this chapter from NCERT. Now then comes another chapter, principle of inheritance and variation. Now this chapter, many students are not very comfortable in this chapter, because they feel that there is some calculation, some probability, some percentage related question are there. But again, you don't need to worry in this chapter, because now seeing the recent trends, the number of questions are more or less constant, but the level of question are now becoming more and more aligned to NCERT. No complex question, no complex calculation related question. They are always straightforward questions. Even if there is some probability related question, it is simply in terms of 1 by 2, 1 by 4, 3 by 4, that is it. So don't fear. If you just apply, don't fear that maths is asked here. It's a very basic maths. It's like 1 plus 1 is equals to 2. So don't worry from here. Now, how you read this chapter, principle of inheritance and variation. So in this chapter, you need to read NCERT again and again. There are few topics which will require clear understanding. Now, if you and in this chapter, one thing will be there, that you are reading it, but you are not able to understand it. So if you feel such things, then come to us, talk to your faculty, that how we can command those topics. For example, linkage, very important. If you are still confused, that you are unable to understand the concept, you need to talk to your faculty, you need to understand it again and again. In this chapter, if you have built the concept, then there is nothing left here. Then further, drawing Punnett square, right? Then you just practice some of the crosses. What is test cross? How can you draw a test cross? Dihybrid. Usually question very less will be from trihybrid. Usually questions are from monohybrid and dihybrid. But some basic simple question can also be asked from the trihybrid cross. So for that, you need to practice such questions, and it will not be very tough. Don't practice random question from principle of inheritance and variation. Always prepare this chapter in close cooperation with your teacher, with your faculty, right? So then you will slowly have confidence in it. Now, if you are still not feeling very confident, don't worry. Right? Solve all the questions slowly and repeatedly again and again and again solve those questions. And gradually you will feel confident, because not much new question is not asked every year. Similar type of question is repeated again and again and again. So if you practice the questions nicely, then this chapter is not that tough. Coming to the molecular basis of inheritance. Now, here again, it requires a lot of understanding. For example, let's say if you are studying the DNA replication, what is exactly the mechanism, transcription, translation? So you have to draw a flow chart, that how step by step process is moving on, in which process which protein is coming in, right? So here you have to create a mind map. Molecular basis of inheritance is all about developing a mind map, in which you will just go through and just close your eyes and experience what is happening during transcription, what is happening during translation, and in all that process, what are the factors which are exactly taking place. For example, if I say that transcription, so what are the proteins, what are the factors responsible for transcription, where it takes place, what are the different variations in transcription, then translation, how is it different, how it is different in prokaryote, how it is different in eukaryote. And you have to be very precise with NCERT. Don't go random, because these are limitless topic. So you have to concise yourself to the NCERT only. Now, in this molecular basis of inheritance, one more thing I would like to add here, that reading the NCERT very slowly, because in recent trend it is observed that since the number of question is also high, and they are picking lines from NCERT, and these lines sometime, if you haven't read NCERT, it may be very confusing. In recent time, for example, one of the question last in this NEET from the biotechnology, all the options were very confusing, and it was although directly from NCERT, the lines were taken from NCERT, but those who haven't read NCERT line by line, they find it a little confusing, right? So in this chapter, line by line, reading the NCERT is important. Here, understanding the concepts are very important. Once you understand the concept, you can answer all the question. Here, understanding the flow chart plus understanding or reading the NCERT line by line, that will be very important. Now, biotechnology and principle and its application. It is comparatively, if we compare with these two chapters, it is comparatively easy chapter. Now, here you just need to read the NCERT. There are few principle and processes which are important. You need to understand it, but other than that, you just read it, make a good notes of it, just keep on revising it, and you will again become confident in these two chapters. So overall, see, the only thing which is true is that read NCERT. NCERT is the main. So in the trend, in the last 2, 3, 4 years, the main trend change which has happened, that earlier few question was getting outside the NCERT. Now the trend has shifted in such a way that no question will be from outside from NCERT. But what happened, that if they have to confuse you, they will take some random line from NCERT, which student usually think that okay, it is as it is, and just ignore it. So that should not be happening. Reading NCERT will be the key. And as I said, again, the 12th portion, these last chapters, they are again, number of chapters are less, but the number of questions are very high. Number of questions are very high. So now, if you command on these chapters, a large number of questions will get easily covered. And then, for example, let's consider living world. Although one chapter, one question or even 0 question is asked, that doesn't mean living world is not important, right? You just have, there are fixed territory from where the question in living world comes, right? You just have to go through that topic, read NCERT, whatever is there, just go through it and you will easily answer. Now, biological classification. It's very easy to score full marks in this chapter also. Just make a clear notes, read NCERT, underline all the important points, all the important examples. That is again very important. Now, if I overall like summarize that how you will score good in NCERT in this NEET, because the pattern is getting more and more based on NCERT, and 2-3 things are very simple. That questions are asked from the tables of NCERT. They are asked from the diagrams of NCERT. Then all the flow chart which is given in NCERT. For example, in photosynthesis and respiration, usually they will ask a question from different cycles which is given there. C3 cycle, C4 cycle, Krebs cycle. Then what is, in which step ATP is released, in which step NADH is formed, in which step it is absorbed, right? So that entire flow chart flow chart should be in your mind. So here one thing you need to do, you can thematically read NCERT. So the first thing, that each and every diagram should be covered properly with all the labeling in it, and also what is written in the footnote of the diagram, so that one day you sit down and just revise only the diagram. Then one day you just revise only the table of given in NCERT. Then what you can do, one day you just, for example, this chapter, plant kingdom, biological classification, and to some extent morphology. There are many examples, right? And usually students get confused among the examples, right? All of you will agree that there are a lot of examples here and I get jumbled with example. Many times students come and say that, sir, I am unable to answer it because there are many examples. So for that, the solution is, for every chapter, make a separate, take a A4 size paper and topic wise only write the example. And at every regular interval, you can go through that example. The only way to command example is regularly revising those examples, and it will be very easy. So in biological classification, plant kingdom and morphology of flowering plant, a lot of example is there. So make a separate list of example and keep on revising it on regular basis. There is nothing new which will be asked. Whatever is there, they will simply ask a question. Which of the following is not an example of this? How many of the following are example of this? That's it. This is how the question will be asked, right? So here also you have to go through the examples. Then in these chapters, see, if you see, the trend is very simple. They are more or less 2-3 questions is asked every year. Now some of the year, if you see, cell is important. Sometime high number of question is asked, sometime a little less number of question is asked, but still it is very important. Again, these all are simple NCERT based topics. Now in photosynthesis and respiration, that cycles, all the cycles, C3 cycle, C4 cycle, all you have to cover, all you have to prepare. Now what you do once you are done with the reading and revising, take an A4 size paper, take a rough page and start drawing those diagrams. Once, without seeing, if you are able to draw the entire diagram, it means that part is covered. So see, overall if you see, all chapters are important, but some chapter require special attention because large number of questions are asked from there, and different chapter require different strategy, right? For example, these chapters require a lot of revision. There is nothing much to understand in the terms of mechanism, but there are many chapters like these. They require understanding the topic. Until unless you don't understand it, you will not be able to score it. So here you have to focus on understanding the topic, and here in these chapters, you just need to go through the content of NCERT, get all the diagrams, flow charts, table covered, and then this all will be done. Now, especially for anatomy, if I say, so for anatomy, you just have to go through all the diagrams and whatever facts are given in that thing. Nothing outside will be asked, right? So in this, so if you have to command botany or for that matter entire bio I am talking about, so it is 100% NCERT based. Even if sometime we feel that some questions are not given in NCERT, but that is how you think. It is somewhere given in NCERT, right? So reading NCERT will be the key, and if you read NCERT well, practice well, revise well, then botany you can easily score 180 out of 180. There is no doubt about it. So practicing and reading NCERT are the two most important things which you need to do regularly and do very good in botany. So that's it from my side in this session. Thank you all of you. Thank you very much.